All right, welcome to our next chat in our series. I've lost count. Ken can probably remind us of it's the fourth in our series of video chats that we've been doing. I'm Roxanne Glauser, Director of Marketing and Learning here at i2i Technologies. And today I have with me again my colleague,
Ken Kahn, Director of Partnerships and Collaboration. Yeah, so this time we've been telling the story related to a group that was very comfortable meeting virtually and formally. Like, they had the internal meetings down, even like low stakes customer meetings over video. But then they had a formal virtual event coming up. It was an investor meeting. And so with that kind of professional virtual event, they got a little nervous. I think when they started thinking through all the things, like I always say, the devil is in the details, right? So you start thinking about all the little things like, oh, how do we do this? Well, how do we do that? What do we do here? So that's kind of how we got involved in that project. So the question this time is, what is something you don't have to worry about in an informal virtual meeting that you should consider for a professional virtual event? And I think we should frame our responses around the virtual town hall format that we've been helping a group with.
Okay, I love this question so much because, like you said, the devil is in the details. And I'm just going to start with the one thing that I have seen come up, whether we have been working. I know you said the virtual town hall here with the investors, but I've seen this in multiple settings of when they transition from meeting into like I'm making a presentation. If there are multiple presenters, that's where people get a little like, well, how do we switch from one presenter to the other? We're sharing content, like how do we do that piece? And so that is one that we have to help think them through, because there's no one answer for it, because I guess the one answer would be it depends. And the one situation that I worked with a group on, they had, I want to say there were probably 5 presenters that were in one location. They had one remote presenter, and then all of they were streaming it live to all the attendees. So it was a mixture of our hybrid. Remember, we talked about some of the challenges in the hybrid, but also then multiple presenters and how to pass it back and forth. And the other little wrinkle in this scenario was the remote presenter had multiple times where they were going to dip in and out. So it wasn't like they could do all of the local presenters at once and then pass it to the remote and come back. So they had to think through what would the transitions look like, who was going to be sharing the slides, and how they would cue to each other to, one person was advancing the slides, and how they would toss it back and forth. Thought through how we see on video or on news when they go from the studio to a remote location. And so we mimicked some of those, and they got to be very comfortable. And then the secret was we practiced it. So it wasn't something we just did something ad hoc day of. No, this was scripted and practiced.
Yeah, you hit on a lot of the things I had been thinking about too. It's so difficult when there's a large group of people in one location and then there's just one or a few just onesie remote people, because it's kind of like you said, it's mixing like two environments together that don't really go together very well. Because we were just doing this the other day where there was like a group of people in a conference room and everybody else was onesies remote on their computer, and it was like, it's not framed as tight, right? Because it needs to be bigger, because it's, so it's like, how do we overcome that? Like where everybody can see everybody well when we're sharing the presentation. So yeah, I think that's a big one. And like, even on those remote ones too, I think some things that come up is like, where are you going to be? Are you going to be in your normal spot, like your home office or your actual office where the bandwidth's good, you have good background, or are you traveling, like you on the road? You're going to be in a hotel. You don't know what no matter what the hotel tells you, you don't really know until you show up there that day and you plug in, or like, are you on the road where, you have to stop, find a library. I had somebody recently, a colleague of mine, that had to connect in from the library. So it's like, yeah, you do want to kind of have an idea about like what are the locations going to be? Are these ones that and are you're comfortable in, or is this going to be an offsite, traveling type of location? And I like how you talked about the roles too, of like different people in there. I think that's sometimes overlooked, of like, you really do have to kind of be like, who's going to be the MC, who's going to kick us off, who's going to be the lead presenter. We've even talked with people like, okay, who's the backup, just in case something weird, like, when you've done it as many times, as long as we have, like, you pretty much experienced most things, right? Like sometimes your power just goes out right in the middle of something, right? And that means your internet goes out too. And so, having that backup known when that happens, you're still going to be kind of jarred a little bit, but being like, oh yeah, we said Roxanne was the back. Yeah, Roxanne, are you able to pull up? You don't have to be like, what do we do now? Like, okay, where you're kind of having to think on your feet. So I think establishing the roles is good. So I think I'm going to go with
Oh, wait, that wasn't your answer? That was just
no,
something
I was
that
kind of
caught
commenting.
your eye?
Those are all the things you said. I was just commenting on what you said.
Like I've got stuff
Oh,
to.
I'm so good that you felt like I was giving brand new information. All I was doing was riffing on what you said.
It's like, wow, that was a lot of talking. I was like, is it my turn yet? Oh, wait, no, I'll be a good listener. Go ahead. Continue on, Mr. Khan. Do you have other ideas to add in?
Well, I think my answer that I'm going to go with is thinking through the back channel collaboration and the management of the Q&A, because I think that's overlooked a lot. And when you're in a formal professional event, and there could be a lot of Q&A going on, and if you don't think through, how am I going to manage that? And especially like you mentioned with multiple presenters, you have multiple presenters, you have multiple people that can answer questions. One of the things that we've done is like set up like a collaborative online kind of dashboard where all the presenters have that pulled up, right? All the people involved in it have it pulled up. And we have people that aren't on the call have that pulled up watching the live stream, and they're able to interact in there. The people that are actually live in the meeting have that pulled up. So that way it's like everybody kind of can keep their eyes and body focused on the presentation while still kind of managing a back channel. They don't have to like look down at a phone or do anything like that. And that's been a very helpful tool that we've used in that professional setting.
Yeah, I like that. We've as we worked with it, it becomes the like dashboard for input and output, and to have that managed, like you said, in a formal way. Because like in an informal, we would just like chat something to each other, you're on Teams and stuff, but this is definitely was an external focused investor meeting. We've done other meetings like that. And anytime you're working with public or stakeholders, it's a great way to think that through. Now, the one thing, I don't know why the comment of like being in the library, since that was me, made me think of one group that we worked with was very, the aesthetics were very important to them. So they actually, the room that everyone was in, it wasn't a wide shot of like the boardroom. They brought in a lectern, so it had that nice, professional look to it. And then the remote participants, I was going to say a couple were in like a home office and had just a physical sign. So they were using that. And any participants who weren't able to be in an office or had to use a virtual background, we made sure and we tested to make sure we had the look of the virtual backgrounds, looked really nice. And then we also tested the lighting and made sure that we had all the other applications and things shut down on the computer so that they had enough processing power to run that virtual background and the meeting at the same time. So again, that's I love how yours was more on the mechanics of the back channel, and mine was definitely the aesthetics, like what does it look like? And I think that was for a professional meeting. That's going to be more important than if we're, if we're internal and everybody's, baseball caps and very just, relaxed, as opposed to this is a presentation.
Yeah, and then I think the thing too about camera presence, like, when to keep cameras on, when, is it appropriate to turn them off at different points? We've had conversations about that too. Like we did a session where multiple times with a group where the first time the panel was like turning their cameras on and off, depending on if they were getting called on for an answer. And it kind of was distracting. It felt a little disjointed. And so, it was decided going forward, it's like, let's all leave our cameras on for the Q&A, even if we're not actively answering a question in the moment. And so I think it helped give more of a presence. I like in yours too, when you were talking about it at the beginning, I was envisioning like, a lectern, because it's like, if you're mimicking like, well, what would you do live? It's like, oh, we'd have it on a stage, we have a lectern, like people, depending on who was speaking, people would come up to, it's like, yeah. So it's like, okay, well, could we do that in a yeah, we could just bring a lectern in here and we can kind of mimic like what we would do on the stage. And yeah, it gives that level, because most people that are attending that type of thing, that's what they would expect to see, right? If they're all in the same, conference room or ballroom or whatever. And I felt like you kind of alluded this to the beginning, and we've talked about this before in answering different questions. I think another thing that has been successful for us, when people bring various roles together to help with the design, like where it's not like you're just working with one person who's making all the decisions about it, and then you bring in everybody else to be like, here's what we're going to do. Like, I feel like we've had more success when, like, there's a person that's representing the leadership of the organization. There's maybe a marketing person, maybe there's a technical support person. We were just doing one where they had some training people. So it's like when multiple people were in there, when you're talking about it, it's nice to see the conversation, because all those roles, they have a different perspective for how something should go. And, you want to be able to hear from the people that are actually going to be doing it as well, to have, some say in like the design of the event. So it's not just coming from like the tech person who, they don't really know what the content is about. And so they might make some decisions that might not serve the presentation or the content well.
Mm-hmm. That's, the other part that makes me think of, we just had an event recently that we were assisting a team with. And another piece that's, I think you don't use it as much in the informal, or like the additional, like advanced functionalities, like in PowerPoint, like when you put up a slide that's got a detailed little graph in it or something. So as you're presenting, go ahead and use your built-in tools that are built into your slide deck. Check that, because there's some amazing tools that you can bring into it. So it's in addition to what might be built into your virtual platform. But that's one, I think, in some aspects, you'll hear people like, oh, death by PowerPoint, or kind of, discounting that tool. And it's got some amazing capabilities that just use it to serve your purpose. And I know we talk a lot about what's the purpose of your meeting, of your whatever you're doing, and then figure out, is there something already built, a tool built into what you're using that you can use in that way? So that was one I was like, oh, we need to always remember to look at how we can have that technology serve us.
Yeah, if you catch yourself saying, I know you can't see this well, maybe think, oh, let me zoom in on a part of it, so you can actually see at least a little bit of it at a time. Yeah, I was going to point this out too, to maybe kind of get us toward a wrap up. But a group that we were working with recently, they actually had an after action meeting after the virtual event, and I thought that was great. So they brought everybody back together, and it was a quick, I mean, I think Roxanne can say too, we were both amazed at, like, they said 30 minutes, we're just going to get together, talk about what our experience was in the event, what did we like, what would we want to maybe do different? And so it helped in future planning of events, right? They're like, we know we're going to do more virtual events. We don't know when, but we know we're going to do more. So what are some things that went well? What are some things we should do differently? And it was great to hear the perspective of everybody. It was like, I want to say, I don't even know if it was a week. It was somewhere within that week range right after. So it was still fresh in everybody's mind too.
Yeah, that was definitely helpful. What went well, it's that plus delta. What do you like? What went well? What would you change next time? Get in and get it done. All right. So Ken, this has been you said fourth conversation, and love thinking through this. So this is what really gets us excited as we help people with video communications, because as you said, it's in the details. So what you do in an informal, just video chat, and we've all been doing that, but when you want to take it up a notch, there's a little bit more thinking through that needs to be done. So that's what's exciting about what we do here at I2I Technologies, is we help people with video communications. So thank you so much for your time. And Ken, thank you as always for a great conversation.
All right. We'll see you next time.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.